What is up, everyone? Welcome. This is the Edge DFS. As usual, we're talking Showdown, Thursday Night Football. First game of Week 3, we got Panthers at the Texans. No Tyrod Taylor, rookie quarterback. Another fun one. What are your thoughts on games like this? Do you enjoy breaking down games like this and talking about this? Is there a little bit of an edge with a weird game like this, especially like with the Texans? What do you think?
I don't know if you can call it an edge, but I do think it's a little bit easier to kind of get risky and do some stuff you wouldn't normally do on a slate. I think it's pretty obvious what lineups we're going to get when we have so few options from one team.
Yeah.
So I think it lets you get a little bit more different without getting too crazy. But even then, on a slate like this, I mean, you can actually just do whatever the hell you want because you have no idea what's going to happen. So yeah, I think it's fun, and it definitely increases the variation. So I am kind of excited for it. From a DFS perspective, I think this is going to be a garbage football game.
Oh yeah. I think it's going to be a weird. Somebody's going to solo ship the Million Maker. It's going to be a weird lineup.
Yeah. I think they need to revisit whoever's been scheduling primetime games. I know you can't really account for injuries, but just based on what we've seen, like come on, man. Like some of these games suck.
This isn't a good matchup, even if even if Deshaun Watson's playing. I mean, actually, I'll take that back. It might be a little bit more interesting, but
like, I mean, dude, Sunday we have Tom Brady's first game in Los Angeles, like in his career.
Yeah,
right. He's playing the LA Rams.
Yeah.
So, like, why aren't they flexing that to Sunday Night Football? Instead, we're going to get something else. I think it's Packers 49ers, which isn't bad, but still, like, I think the Rams game would be more interesting. All right, anyways.
All right, so this matchup, we've got, obviously, CMC is going to be 100% owned, 95% owned total, probably 40+% in the captain. I'm not touching him in tournaments at captain. I think you can find other ways to still have a high upside. Put him in your flex all day. I'm not saying don't play him in the flex, but at captain, I think I'm going to go a different direction when it comes to I'll hedge with single entries and cash this week a little bit more than I usually would, and I'll throw him in at captain and I'll find some value somewhere else. But we've got two guys that we're pretty confident with at captain for tournaments, have a high ceiling, way lower ownership than they should because CMC is eating up all of that ownership at captain pretty much, and then a couple of low price guys that you're going to need to find this week. It's going to be really important. It's hard on the Panthers side of the ball. There's really not a lot of value. There's one guy at around the 3K range that I think we can fit in. So stick with us. We're going to be talking all about that. We got the breakdown where we go through each position. We'll do our fades, our favorite captain, our crown their ass segment, and then we'll build lineups together. We'll really feel this out. I built a couple lineups earlier. But I really like with you live for the first time, just like building together and feeling out these different captains and different guys in the flex. Like we did, what was that, Sunday night? What game was that? It was a Sunday night game. We did pretty good. Like I did okay. I was like in contention the whole night and just kind of went downhill. I'm not even going to talk about Monday night because we got the Aaron Jones. We got the 1 or 2 Aaron Jones 4 touchdown games that he gets every single year, and it's impossible to know when he's going to pull that off. All right. Anyways, let's move over to. Let's look at the bird's eye on this. Let's look at Vegas totals. So Carolina is a heavy road favorite. Minus 393. It's a little bit lower of a total. Carolina, 25 points implied total for them. Not super high. They had a pretty good game last week. They looked pretty good. Houston actually looked solid. They were winning in the second quarter. It was tied going into the half. Tyrod, hamstring injury, I believe it was a hamstring. He's out now. He's on IR. He's gonna miss a few weeks. But Houston looked pretty good in that game against Cleveland. I was pretty surprised. Their defense did okay, considering the fact that their offense just was not producing at a certain point. They were in that game at the end. Just Davis Mills Am I saying his name right? Yeah, Davis Mills.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever said this guy's name. He actually did throw a touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks in that game. But he just couldn't come up with a clutch drive at the end. And I don't think you expect him to. I don't even think this guy expected to be on our roster this year. He's a rookie. He is, let's see, he's at a Stanford. So he only played 14 games in his career at Stanford. But he was the top-ranked high school quarterback in 2017 coming out of high school. But he suffered with a lot of knee injuries, barely played. I don't quite know how he's on an NFL roster, only playing in a few games. He must be talented. He just needs reps. So we're going to look at his salary in a minute, but it's so low that I think he's so unknown. I think you can still consider playing him quite a bit. Anyways, we'll get back to this. Carolina overwhelmingly in the ownership column. Thoughts on this? Does Houston have a shot in this game? They've been very surprising this year. I think they have a relatively solid roster, and if it wasn't for Tyrod being out, I think they could compete with being around 500 this year.
Yeah, man. I definitely think that Carolina's going to win this game. I don't know if Houston really has a shot to stay in this. It really does depend on who Davis Mills is.
It's a weird name.
So it looks like he was a third-round pick in the draft. Like,
was he a third-round pick? Wow.
Yeah, taking a quarterback in the third round. Like, you obviously see something in him. I don't know. Maybe he can ball out. He's 6'4", 220. So we'll see. And look, that team's been overachieving so far this year. Like, never underestimate a group of guys who literally have nothing to lose except potentially they can gain contracts, right? Like, if Davis Mills does all right, any team wants a quarterback. So, like, I mean, Taylor Heineke's out there. Yeah. He had two opportunities at the end of last season, and he's probably going to start for another couple weeks, right?
What was that stat I read? I think he threw the most yards in his first three starts, or most completions, something ridiculous in NFL history. He set a record of some sort, which is insane.
Right.
He went head-to-head with Brady last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, dude. And these guys, they're on professional teams for a reason. So, like, at the end of the day, you do need to take stuff with that into the account. And I mean, if Vegas is still giving them 18 points, that kind of says something against the league's number one defense. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
I love that Brian Scalabrine quote where he says that he's closer to Jordan than we are to him. Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's the same thing here. I mean, these guys he's a starting cornerback in the NFL.
Davis Mills is closer to being Tom Brady than I am to being Davis Mills.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the only 32 in the entire world to get this position. So yes, he's not one of the best in the league, but he's not he's not a piece of crap. He's probably good enough to at least throw a couple touchdowns on a Sunday.
Bro, if they didn't think he could play a game, they would have traded someone this week, or forfeit? Like, I don't know. Like, they would have done something.
Watching the film on that game, he didn't look bad. He threw a pick, I think, on his first or second drive. Excuse me. It wasn't a bad pick. It wasn't a Jameis Winston, throw it down the field pick. It was a highly contested ball. He threw a touchdown pass. He looked okay. I think he had 18 attempts in that game, 11 completions. Nothing to write home about. I think he did have a fumble as well. So it's his first game. But I think he's at 8,400. Let me look. Is he 8,400? Man, that's really low. That's like lower than Ben DiNucci, I think. So I actually like him quite a bit this week. I think the field is going to follow. I think he's going to be, almost 40% owned potentially. So something to think about, and I'm not scared to play him because the total, their implied total is around 17 points. The chances of him being involved in the 2 touchdowns that they're projected to score potentially are pretty high, especially considering you've got 3 or 4 running backs for this team that any one of them can score and sort of mess things up. So I'd rather just stick with the guy who has the ball in his hands every single play. He's actually only a little bit more expensive than some of these running backs. So I'd rather just go with Mills at quarterback. All right, so let's move over to injuries here. Not a whole lot to talk about. We've got Danny Amendola's out. There's not really anything on the Panthers side of the ball. But we've got Amendola out. We've also got the rookie Nico Collins was injured last week, so he's out. That opens up some value here. We've got Anthony Miller at 1K. That is going to be pretty much the number 3 guy at this point for the Texans, behind Chris Conley. And Andre Roberts did see some action last week, but he's mainly a kind of a return guy. I don't see Andre Roberts getting more snaps than Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller on the Bears last year had high upside. You and I both liked him last year in Showdown quite a bit. So this is his first game with the Texans. He was activated this week, or not activated, but he's back from injury this week. And I expect to see him at 1K getting some decent targets in the slot. Any thoughts on, with Amendola and Collins out, does that move the needle for you, or are you just focused pretty much on Brandon Cooks this week?
No, I mean, if Anthony Miller is really 1K and I projected for over 5 fantasy points, like I'm going to have a decent amount of exposure to him. And again, like who knows what we're going to see? We could easily see them hand the ball off 35, 40 times this game, or they could just say, screw it, dude. Let's see what this guy can do. And again, to your point, like, yeah, you only have so many people to play wide receiver. And he's listed as their wide receiver 3 right now. I mean, God, if Chris Conley's your 2, like something's going wrong. Like, so, I definitely think that there's, God, he's only 1,600 as well.
Yeah,
I don't know,
too.
man.
You can both of these guys. I think Anthony Miller is the risky play because it's his first game. We don't know what to expect. He could score. He could be a clear number 2 in this game because we saw the talent in Chicago. I think Mooney sort of took that position over from him, and he just sort of fell out of good graces with the coaches or whatever it was. But we know he's got talent. I don't know how well he fits in with his team. I don't know how well he fits in with Davis Mills. But I think at 1K, you don't really need a lot from him. You get 4 receptions for 45 yards or 50 yards or something. That might be enough in a game where no one on the Houston is really going to score a lot. At least they're projected not to score a lot. All right.
I mean, look, if at this point on a slate like this, if you're finding anybody that is going to get some playing time under 10% owned, I'm probably just going to play them. Like, you may not even need to convince me what position it is or whatever. Like, I might just have some exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get into this breakdown. Break it down. We're going to go position by position here, starting out with the quarterbacks. So Sam Darnold's at 11.2K. I'm pretty confident that's the highest salary he's ever had on Showdown. I could be wrong, but he's looked pretty good this year. Carolina's 2-0. They have a lot of weapons. I think there's a situation where you might not need Sam Darnold in this game as much as you'd think. He might come out and throw 2 touchdowns in the first half with 1 or 2 CMC rushing touchdowns, and that's it. And they spread the ball around a little bit and run this game out. If I had to choose, though, 11.2K, I'm gonna be over the field with Sam Darnold, I think, because I think he does have super high upside. But that's a heavy price tag. I think if you had to fade one of these really high price guys, he might be the one. He might be the one to go under the field on. But I think I'm going to go the opposite on that. So thoughts on Darnold?
Yeah, man. I think he's a fine play. I think he's going to be. You're going to have to decide whether or not you want to fade him or Christian McCaffrey to kind of get different. I think on this slate, as much as I think Sam Darnold is probably going to be in the optimal, I am much more comfortable fading him, especially in a potential, lead by 8 to 10 situation, right? They're going to be more likely to run the ball with the CMC. So, Sam is probably a good position to fade, but I definitely think he's still got the potential to at least go out and throw for 250, and 2 or 3 touchdowns. So I don't know. It's going to be a really weird slate because with the guy priced at 1,000 like Anthony Miller, say, Houston has a total of 150 yards of offense and Miller has, 70 yards on 1 touchdown. He's going to be the optimal player.
Yeah.
And you may not need any other player from the Texans, right? Mm-hmm. And in that case, you're going to have CMC and probably Sam Darnold. So those are just things you got to think about when we're getting into that roster construction. But I don't know, man. I'll probably be 50-50 on him. I'll have him in half my lineups.
I mean, even with a really solid win against New Orleans, he threw the ball 38 times. He had 305 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Still only got you 22 fantasy points. Now, on a game like this, if he scores 22 or over 20, he's most likely going to be in the optimal. But there's a world where he doesn't need to throw 38 times or get 305 yards. He's not a guy who's going to run the ball, so you're not going to get those Daniel Jones cheap sort of points that you would get from a guy who can run the ball. So Darnold at 11.2K, I'm definitely intrigued. I definitely want quite a bit of him. But there's a world where you could fade, where you could put in Davis Mills. I keep forgetting this guy's name. Sorry, guys. Where you could fit in Davis Mills more than Darnold, because I think that Davis Mills is going to be chucking the ball all game. There's just no way he's not going to be throwing the ball all game. They're going to design, I think in this particular game for Davis Mills, they're going to design a lot more quick slants and out of the backfield routes. You got David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, and I mean even Ingram can catch the ball out of the backfield. You got and you got Burkhead. you got 3 very solid out of the backfield receivers, and I think that's going to be an option for him in this game, more so than we've seen so far this year with this team when it comes to their running backs. So Davis Mills at 8,400, not a whole lot more to talk about. I don't mind him at that price. If he was higher, I would fade him, but I like him. And also playing him along with the Carolina defense in a showdown, putting them both on the flex, Carolina defense, I don't mind that at all. Like, I really don't. An interception is only minus, 1 point?
Yeah.
And an interception for a touchdown is worth 6 points on the other side. So I'm not super worried about putting Mills and the Panthers defense together, because Panthers defense is going to be they're 6,200, I believe, and they're going to be like 30% owned, in my opinion. It's going to be you're going to have to find ways to get different, and weird roster constructions like that is a good idea. All right, so running backs. Let's start off with a little bit easier situation here in Carolina. So CMC. 13.4K. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone priced higher on Showdown. Have you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Christian McCaffrey last year.
Good point. So 13.4K, there's really nothing to talk about with Christian McCaffrey. Just play him. The one thing to bring up here is he did have two or three goal line opportunities that he just could not convert on. They ended up kicking a field goal, or actually one of the times they kicked a field goal, the other times they passed it. He was on like the 3-yard line multiple times. He just could not punch it in. Now, I don't know if that's more of a reflection on the other team's defense, but there's a situation where Chuba Hubbard at 3,200 might get a goal line carry or two this week. We know that McCaffrey is injury prone. He gets fed the ball quite a bit. He has a very heavy load. Wouldn't be surprised if Chuba Hubbard starts getting a little bit more of the carries. Work him in a little bit more. We know that Christian McCaffrey's probably going to miss a game or two this year, at minimum. You would think, just because of his workload. Why not get Chuba Hubbard, it's a weird-ass name too, a little bit more reps in-game, especially if this game gets out of hand. I think you're going to see him in a majority of the fourth quarter, potentially. So at 3,200, Christian McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard in the same lineup. Hell, I like it, actually. I really do. And he got 2 or 3 snaps. He got 1 carry on the first drive, and I think he got a couple opportunities on that very first drive in the game. That's a good sign.
Yeah, and I think that you're gonna have a little bit more opportunity with Chuba Hubbard, with Chumbawamba. I don't know.
Is it Chuba or Chuba? It's Chuba.
I have no idea.
Sorry, guys. Don't at me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Hubbard, the backup running back for Christian McCaffrey. we know C-Mac's going to have all the workload the entire season. On a short week coming off an injury, I just expect him to get a little bit more volume, especially in the scenario that he's probably not going to need to be relied on quite as much. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I'm saying Christian McCaffrey is going to come out here and only have 15 to 20 touches. I'm just saying I think you can just give Hubbard a slight boost, because I think that I think they'll be beneficial. It'll benefit both backs to split the carries here a little bit. Give McCaffrey a little bit of time to rest, and maybe rest him a little bit in the second half too if you find yourself up 10, 14 points. So I like both of them. I think you'd be just fine building a McCaffrey, Hubbard, Hancock, and I don't know, man, handcuff.
It's the Montezuma's revenge that's still affecting your brain there.
Jesus, dude. Yeah. Well, I don't. Hancock, like Will Smith is in this now. I don't know what's going on, bro. But no, dude. So you run them both, and then throw in the Carolina defense. And you'll probably have money to throw in Sam Darnold and Anthony Miller too. Like I don't think that's a terrible build. So I'll probably have a couple with both guys as well. Royce Freeman and Gio Ricci, though. I don't think so.
Royce Freeman did get a few snaps. I'm not going to play him. I mean, at $400, I mean, maybe there's a situation where I play him once in 1 out of 80 lineups or something. But at $400, it's interesting. But Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be super low owned, man.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to, first of all, just by putting McCaffrey in the flex, you're going to be a little bit different. And putting Chuba Hubbard with him in the flex, you're going to be ultra different. He might come in at less than 10% owned. And to me, that's kind of a no-brainer at 3,200. It's a risk. He's not going to get the volume. We know that he's not going to get a lot of volume, but there's a chance in the fourth quarter he might get a little more volume. Look at that, 1 point.
I mean, he had 8 carries last week, though.
He had 8 carries, and like I said, all you need is 1 or 2 goal line carries from him, and you're going to be feeling pretty good. Even if he doesn't score on showdown opportunities, King, like I say. And if he gets a goal line carry, that's exciting. And you've always got a shot with a goal line carry. All right. So let's move over to the other side here. I don't even know how to. This is going to be interesting. Let me pull up my notes because this is not fun to talk about. So, Mark Ingram, back from the dead. Last year, dude could barely get on the field. And at the end of the season, now he's apparently the starting running back for the Houston Texans at 6,600. Last week he got 31% of the snaps. Now they were losing in the second half, not by a lot. David Johnson was the guy getting most of the snaps. He had 42%. You also had Phillip Lindsay with 23%, and randomly Rex Burkhead had 18% of the snaps. So who knows if that stays consistent this week? I tried to just watch what happened in the second half with the new quarterback in, and David Johnson was getting most of the opportunities because he's a great receiver out of the backfield. Cardinals fans, we know this guy when he's hot, he's hot. He hasn't been hot in a while, but he had a couple opportunities where he got some screens out of the backfield. He got some short passes out of the backfield, and he made something of it, got a couple first downs. Now, Phillip Lindsay had a receiving touchdown in this game. I think all 3 of these guys are viable. I'm not going to fade any of them. I'm going to spread it out quite a bit. I might make a rule to try to jam one of these guys into most of my lineups. I know it's risky because they're going to be losing in this game, but they don't have any other play. I mean, they have Brandon Cooks. I mean, that's it. Yeah. They're going to have to get the ball to somebody. If I had to bet, I'd say I would personally like to target Johnson and Lindsay more based on this particular game script. They're all around the same price. And they're all right around the same price as the Texans defense or the Carolina defense. So you could get different and kind of fade the defense and go with some of these running backs. So where are you going in this game with all these guys? Who are you leaning to?
I think I'm just going to have a healthy rotation of all 3. I think I agree with your sentiment a little bit more about Mark Ingram kind of be the guy that you can pull back on a little bit just because he's not really going to get involved in the pass game. He's kind of just I don't know, man. I don't. He's a first and second down back kind of, and then he'll come in for blocking situations or goal line situations.
Yeah.
So he's gonna split those touches, but I think Philip Lindsay offers some unique opportunities in the screen game, which is great when you're
Yeah.
dealing with a rookie quarterback. And then David Johnson, I mean, he can actually just play wide receiver.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if Anthony Miller is their true two, Chris Conley is their true two, there's a chance we could just see him line out in the slot or as a flanker, bro. So
Especially considering there's two big injuries from the wide receiver side. You're right. He could be on the field with Lindsey or with Ingram.
Right. He was a wide receiver in college, and I think that's what people forget. I hated that the Cardinals didn't use him in that capacity when they had Chris Johnson, right?
Yeah.
And Adrian Peterson. So, yeah, man, I definitely think that there's an opportunity for Philip Lindsay and David Johnson to get a little bit more work in the run game. But just as we say that, like if Rex Burkhead ends up active, like he's going to be the Aaron Jones. Like,
Oh yeah,
he is that guy that'll come out and have 4 touchdowns for no goddamn reason.
just because he was a Patriot, it's gonna screw us all over again. It's gonna happen.
He'll retire mid-game after he gets 2, and then nobody will be able to do anything about it. So, like, and I don't mean that. I'm not actually going to have any exposure to Rex Burkhead. So let me just be very clear on that.
I'll have one lineup with him maybe.
But yeah, I mean, I think David Johnson and Philip Lindsay are the way to go. But not to get too out of touch here, but I mean, Houston has been in games that they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Like Tyrod Taylor, as good as he's doing, like their defense kept them in against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And it's not like they were out there crushing, but they played a really good half of football.
Yeah.
So, if their defense is able to get 1 or 2 stops, there is a chance that you could see Mark Ingram get a decent amount of carries because they're not playing from behind.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get comfortable in that offense. So I honestly think that one of these backs is going to be in the optimal. I doubt 2 will, but I think you will have to have one of the Houston Texans running backs.
And I think they're gonna come out for Davis Mills, a rookie quarterback. They're really gonna design this entire week. It's a short week, but they're gonna design a lot of out of the backfield plays for him, especially in the first quarter, I would say, because you want to get this guy's confidence up. So you complete a couple of 3 or 4 yard passes to David Johnson or Philip Lindsay. That's going to really get your confidence up. It's going to help this guy feel confident that he can throw down the field to Brandon Cooks or Anthony Miller. If you had to guess what the projected ownership for Rex Burkhead is, what would you say it would be?
5%.
He's projected higher than Philip Lindsay. So there's something wrong with their projections. There's no way.
I hope there's nothing wrong with the projections.
He's around 10% ownership, and Philip Lindsay is like 6% ownership.
I hope that's the case, man.
That'll change. That'll change by tomorrow.
That would cement me not playing him. Just like, cool. They paid the overlay, or they paid the rake.
Exactly. All right, so we're done with running backs. Let's go over to the wide receivers. Who would have thought that Brandon Cooks would absolutely crush this year? Kind of by default, they don't really have any other wide receivers to throw to, but he's looking good, man. He's looking like a true number 1 this year. And, he's got 21 targets in 2 games, 14 receptions. He's looking solid. At 10K, I think this is a guy you got to try to fit into a majority of your lineups. If you're doing 4-2s or 5-1s, he's probably going to be the guy to fit in. Now, in saying that, he will no doubt, in my opinion, be the highest owned Texan unless everyone is loving that Davis Mills 8,400 price tag. But Brandon Cooks is looking solid, man. He's going to be over 30% total owned. I don't know how you could go wrong with him. There is a world where he just doesn't end up catching a lot of balls and he doesn't pay off that salary. But if I had to bet on one of these guys, obviously Brandon Cooks is the guy. Look at that salary difference between him and everybody else. Chris Conley actually played 90% of the snaps last week. It looks like he is the solid number 2, but I think that Anthony Miller could, compete with him for targets this week. When it comes to Andre Roberts, $600, it's worth the flyer. He's a return man guy. He did muff a punt at the beginning of that game, but they targeted him a few more times in that game. I don't love Andre Roberts as a receiver, but at $600, it's worth one or two lineups. So thoughts on, do you go with any of these other guys as just pure flyers with that salary? You're going to need a guy at around the $1,000 range to really make these lineups work, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I like Chris Conley. I like Anthony Miller. I won't have both of them in the same lineup. And I also don't mind Andre Roberts, Chris Moore, or whoever ends up being active at wide receiver for the night, right? They're going to be pretty cheap. And, these are the guys that, Sammy Davis or Davis Maddock. I don't, what,
Sammy
Davis
Jr.
Mills. Sammy Davis Jr. Bro, I don't know, man. Their quarterback, these are the guys he's been practicing with. So, he may not throw to Brandon Cooks because he doesn't know how to throw to Brandon Cooks. He doesn't have timing down with these wide receivers. So I don't think you're doing anything wrong getting something like that in your lineup. And remember, Brandon Cooks is very much a deeper threat, right? Those are routes that require some chemistry. Throwing it to David Johnson on a flat pattern doesn't require chemistry. It requires both guys to know where they're at. So, that's something they probably practiced a decent amount. But yeah, man, I definitely think you can open up your player pool here a bit and just throw in guys that you think they might be comfortable with. I mean, read an article on Local Reporter about how Mills was having lunch with Chris Moore in training camp. Maybe they like each other. So I don't know, man. This is a time where you can use your local edge to your advantage.
Yeah, if you're in Houston and you know a little bit about these guys, you have more of an edge than most of us do.
Yeah, let us know.
yeah, hit us up in the comments or hit us up in the Discord. All right, so anything else to add, or you want to move on to the other side?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, so this is interesting. So DJ Moore is the clear number one here. But Robbie Anderson, he's got that rapport with Darnold from the Jets. Robbie Anderson at 7,800 is real nice. He has that home run ability. He hasn't really done anything this year. So I think his ownership is going to be quite low, considering DJ Moore is at 10.6K. I think that's just way too high for him. Don't you think? At 10.6K, I know DJ Moore is good. But we've seen in the past that Robbie Anderson can outscore DJ Moore with a couple of long bombs.
Yeah.
Right? Thoughts?
Yeah, bro. So look, I'm actually probably a little bit higher on you than DJ Moore, but he's just getting all the volume. He's getting so much volume, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to stop him this year. It looks like the only thing that stops him is his own injuries. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be hard to have any type of fade. And with Curtis Samuel being off of this offense, I think it opens DJ Moore up for some more of those gadget plays that he should be involved in. That he got a bunch of them last year, didn't he? And I think we did a showdown about it with DJ Moore just having a shitload of those gadget plays.
It was actually more Curtis Samuel. He actually lined up as running back a few times. That was with CMC out. But yeah, DJ Moore definitely had those options for sure.
I think there was another showdown show. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But still, I think they're very similar guys. I mean, Curtis Samuel's no longer on the team. We know what DJ Moore can do. We've seen it. But, to your point, Robbie Anderson, 7,800, he's not going to continue to get 3 targets or, 3 receptions on 6 targets, right? That's a fluke. He's a baller, dude. And he has that rapport with Sam Darnold. They did it together in wherever the Jet Stadium is. I have no idea.
Jersey.
Whatever Jersey dump that they play in. Yeah. But dude, I think Robbie Anderson is a great play, especially at $7,800 against a team that I don't know. Are they going to be able to hang around? Are the Texans corners? Are they going to even have the desire to try and cover Robbie Anderson? I mean, it's a short week. They could come out with absolutely no heart because they lost their starting quarterback. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to think here. And I think I'm going to have a shitload of DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. That's what I'm going to say.
The thing that worries me about DJ Moore at that price tag at 10.6K, there's just no way to get him, Darnold, and CMC in a lineup together. So I'd rather try to get, the holy trinity of those guys, but have Robbie Anderson there because I think you could fit him in. at like $3,000 cheaper almost.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that would be the reason. Look, I like DJ Moore, just he's so damn expensive. I think the ceiling is actually higher for Robbie Anderson. We just haven't seen it this year yet. So Terrence Marshall Jr. at 4,000. Thoughts on him, rookie? I think he's got some upside, but I don't. He's not really getting much volume. He's not really seeing the field as much. You're seeing in the preseason he did okay, but you're seeing 3 targets, 6 targets for 17 yards, 26 yards. And at that price tag at 4,000, it's not bad, but I think when you're going value, you got to go bargain basement. You got to go to the $1,000 range. You got Zylstra too at 4,600. Are you interested in Marshall or Zylstra? Can these guys like break the slate with a random touchdown?
Zylstra, I don't think so. Not at that price. Terrace Marshall, I definitely think has some upside. I mean, I haven't watched much Panthers football this year, but yeah. I would assume that he's the true wide receiver 3. So I don't know, man. They've been winning games. I mean, I think their defense is averaging 10 points a game allowed. So I don't think we've necessarily seen what we're going to see out of the passing game yet. So this could be an opportunity where they let loose with some of the backup guys or the guys that are in the 3 or 4 roles. So I think Terrace Marshall is a decent take. And at 4K, he probably isn't going to be that owned. So I think getting some exposure to him if he's 50 to 20% owned isn't an awful decision either.
He's the clear number 3. He's getting 53% of the snaps for both the first 2 games. He ran 23 routes in each of the first 2 games. And Zylstra is getting 15% of the snaps, and he's running 2 and 7 routes. I don't know why Zylstra is priced higher than Terrence Marshall.
I think he had a touchdown on Sunday.
Oh, you're right. He did. Yeah. But I mean, at 4,600,
I don't know why that would.
At 4,600, 1 touchdown. It's not enough to move the needle on 1 reception and a touchdown, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move over. We got wide receivers done, right? Let's go to tight ends. Wow, we're moving through the show. There's not a whole lot to talk about this week. It's the freaking Houston Texans. What do you expect? So Dan Arnold, disappointing as hell last year for the Cardinals. He has the upside. At 4,800, he's actually pretty. I'm interested in him a little bit this week because if you watch the first half of that game, he was targeted. He had 3 nice receptions, and I think he just kind of fell asleep after that, or they just kind of didn't target him. He looked pretty good, and at 4,800, if you get a touchdown and 50 yards out of him, that could move the needle, and he could be in the optimal. Ian Thomas even had a couple targets. I think one target was negated from a penalty or something. But at 2,000, we've seen Ian Thomas randomly get targets in the red zone. I'm not telling you to play 30% Ian Thomas. I'm telling you to maybe jam him in 1 or 2 lineups. But Dan Arnold on the other end, I think you can. He's going to be around 10% owned. I think you can double the field and feel okay about it. Do you like Arnold? Am I overthinking things? I mean he did have 3 nice receptions in that first half.
Yeah, dude, Dan Arnold's fine. I think he's going to be a guy that's worth playing all year unless you just absolutely think that he's a bust. I'm not saying that he went out and got tight end, top 5 tight end money, but the Carolina Panthers did pay him to be their number 1, right? So they are going to play him and give an opportunity because they paid him. So I definitely think that he's got some value because of that, right?
Yeah.
And even if he's an awful tight end, he's still going to have those opportunities because they're offering him the money to get those opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and to your point, again, the Carolina defense is number 1 defense in the league right now. They're allowing 10 points per game. So at a certain point, like you don't need to throw over the middle to your tight end anymore, right? Yeah. So you're not going to continue forcing those plays. You're milking the clock. You have the best running back in the NFL. So there's no reason to keep pushing it after you get to a certain point. So I think that's going to impact some of his workload here. But again, one of the things I keep saying is that this is a short week. It's a Thursday night game. They're probably going to be up 10 or more by halftime. You might see some other stuff start to open up just because of the way that the short week plays out. Yeah. So maybe Dan Arnold does get a little bit more run in the passing game because they want to try running a couple new plays. Maybe Ian Thomas gets some extra run. And I just want to say his name. Maybe Tommy Tremble comes out and dominates because, it's him versus the third string team. I really just want to play him because his name's awesome. But, dude, I think all these tight ends are in a decent spot. I think all are probably going to be on the field, at least for 2 tight end sets for Christian McCaffrey. I don't know, man. I think Dan Arnold's priced really nicely at 4,800 too. I might take a couple stabs at captain.
Yeah, why not? You love your tight ends at captain. Me too.
Yeah, dude.
So the interesting thing here is when you're looking at the overall snaps this season, Ian Thomas has definitely outsnapped Dan Arnold this year. So week 1, they kind of split it 50-50 almost. Week 2, Dan Arnold only got 25% of the snaps. Ian Thomas had 58. And then Tommy Tremblay, what is it, Tremblay? Tremblay, it's got to be Tremblay. He had the same exact amount of snaps as Dan Arnold. So it's something to think about. Now, those guys are blocking tight ends. They're not going to be targeted as much. They're not going to run as many routes. Dan Arnold ran 20 routes week 1. He ran 12 routes week 2, which is basically double the other guys combined. So fantasy-wise, the amount of snaps they're getting isn't, the end-all, be-all. They got to have opportunity to catch the ball. And I know they're on the field, which is good, and especially in the red zone, if they're doing these goal line, they're gonna have 2 tight ends in there most likely, and we've seen it a million times. Play action to a number 1 running back, and you toss it to Ian Thomas or Tremblay in the corner of the end zone. That could change a lot at those salaries. All right, anything else to add here?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, let's move over to the other side here. Man, you're gonna have to really dig this week, man. This is not gonna be easy at all. Jordan Akins, 2,200. Pharaoh Brown, 2,600. I think Pharaoh Brown is the better option here. Let me look up Pharaoh Brown here. Based on what I was reading earlier, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Let's see. Okay, so he was only targeted once last week. But he's actually tied for second on the team in targets this year with Danny Amendola. Amendola's out this week. So, I don't know. Brown was questionable last week, and he did play. So maybe there's a reason why he didn't really do anything last week. He only targeted once. He was hurt. So if he's back to full strength this week, you could see a little bit more volume out of Pharaoh Brown. I'm gonna avoid Akins. I know these guys like Darren Fells and Akins. They can randomly catch a touchdown every once in a while, but I'm not gonna go heavy on Akins. If he was like $1,000, I would. Pharaoh Brown, if I'm gonna target anybody, it's gonna be him. But you're talking, the 15 to 20% ownership, which seems a little high. Both of these guys are 15 to 20% ownership. What are you seeing on your end for ownership for these guys?
They don't have anything yet.
I disagree with their ownership projections so far. There's no way that Jordan Akins is going to be 15% owned.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Jordan Akins, he's one of those like weird tight end names that we've seen catch touchdowns and showdown slates. So I think that's enough to give him some love, just from the field, right? I think people play the names, but yeah, dude, I'm with you here. I don't know if I'm going to get too much of either one of these guys, to be honest. Yeah. Even Pharaoh Brown, like I'll have some exposure just because again, young quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks,
yeah,
they like to have those outlet passing routes, but I don't know. The Carolina defense is pretty good, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to get routes through with a guy like Pharaoh Brown. You're going to have to run some pretty clean routes. So I think I'll stick with guys like Brandon Cooks, and then maybe just go down to Anthony Miller, who's projected for twice as many points at half the price. So
I would rather get Anthony Miller, definitely.
yeah, and the thing is, dude, he could catch one and go to the house. Pharaoh Brown, I mean, I don't know how fast he is. He's tight end. I don't think by default, I can assume he's not blazingly fast. So
yeah,
I think Anthony Miller is kind of the way to go here, but I'll have a little bit of exposure just to kind of hedge where I'm at.
So week 1, he was targeted 5 times, 4 receptions for 64 yards. If he catches a touchdown there in that game, this guy's going to be way popular this week. So I think Pharaoh Brown is worth looking at. I'd rather go above the field on Pharaoh Brown. I think he's going to be less than projected ownership, in my opinion. At least I hope he is. If he's at 20%, I'm not going to play him. That's just too much, in my opinion. So kicker, is who's the kicker? What are you seeing on RG for Houston or for Carolina?
Carolina, Zane Gonzalez.
That's right, former Cardinal. Okay, so Fairbairn is on the IR, and Eberle is not the kicker. Okay, so Zane Gonzalez and Joey Sly. That makes sense.
Didn't Joey Sly used to be on the Panthers?
Yeah. Revenge game?
Hey, look, I mean, he might be the top scoring player on Houston.
He could be.
Again, let's start with Joey Sly, because I do want to say something here, right? He could easily be the highest scoring player on Carolina, or God, on Houston. But this isn't a case of drives stalling out. Like, we don't know if they're going to have any drives. If you just punt the ball 14 times, obviously that's not a field goal. So you're not getting any points from Joey Sly. So that's something you need to keep in mind here. If you're going to be running onslaughts of Carolina, you may not want to run it back with the kicker. They may not make it past midfield. 17 points again. I mean, you're implying that there's between 5 to 7 going to the kicker. Mm-hmm. But it's something we got to really think about in our game script. If we just think that this is going to be an absolute decimation of Houston, I just don't know that Joey Sly is the way to go.
Yeah, because if we get in the third and fourth quarter, they're not going to be kicking field goals if they're down by 3 touchdowns. They're just going to be going for it.
Right.
I think you just have to do, Joey Sly is double the ownership as Zane Gonzalez, which makes sense. But, Joey Sly was on the practice squad. He wasn't even the starting kicker. Fairbairn is the starting kicker, and he's injured. That's the only reason why Sly is even playing. So that means something. Kickers are streaky, and Sly, he's not on the Panthers for a reason at this point. And Zane Gonzalez was a reject from the Cardinals.
He was cut this year.
Yeah, he was cut. So now
this year he got re-signed.
Oh, he got re-signed. Yeah. So you're talking about 2 kickers who are very unreliable and just happy to be on a team. So for me, at 38 and 3,600, they're better options. I'd rather play the tight ends than the kickers in this game.
Bro, just give me $1,000 Anthony Miller, and I guess I'd still rather probably just run Chris Conley as another punt. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And you still get $3,000 back, and you're, I guess, at $1,200, maybe that gives you someone else. But we'll see here in a second.
It's hard to talk about kickers because it could go many ways. The kickers could have 0 points. They could have 3 points. They could have 5 points. They could go off for 22 points like Graham Gano did the other night. It's impossible. Graham Gano is another former Carolina, right?
Yeah.
It's impossible to project these things, but with a lower scoring game, I think you can consider Joey Sly. If you're going to consider any of these kickers, I would just rather avoid them altogether because you're talking about potentially 30+% ownership going to these guys combined. There's the rake right there if they put up duds.
Yeah.
So Panthers 6,200. Typically speaking, these high-owned, high-priced defenses usually don't pay off on showdowns. But in this case, you're going against a rookie, unproven quarterback with a team that's just not that good. And I think you can consider the Panthers. They're going to be high-owned. I would guess that they're going to probably be 30% owned. And I think they'll probably be like 10% owned the captain, don't you think?
Yeah, they'll probably be one of the chalkier plays. I would expect him to be close to 10%, if not 15% in the captain spot. I don't know if I'm going to be going that route too much tomorrow night. I understand the that they should dominate, but like in all reality, like I really think that fantasy scoring isn't geared towards defensive performances in the first place. Like for example, on Sunday, there's no reason that you can convince me that the Bills should have only had 22 total points for a shutout against a professional team.
Yeah.
Right. So like, first of all, you're not getting the return on what you're actually seeing happen on the field. So like, even if the Panthers do hold them to 10 points, that's a professional team that you held to 10 points. Like, that's not easy to do. But it's not going to reflect as that on the scoring. That immediately puts you at 6 points because of how many points that were scored, right? So that means you need sacks, you need a couple takeaways to get back to the 10 points that you started with. Yes, I think there's going to be some opportunity for defensive scores, but again, like, especially with a guy like Christian McCaffrey on the slate, if you don't think that the Panthers defense is going to put up probably 25 points, like 25 fantasy points, then they're probably not going to outscore someone like Sam Darnold or Christian McCaffrey and the captain and not get you what you need.
Yeah.
So having them in the flex is probably the optimal way to go. But even then, you really need to think about what you're expecting from the Texans. And I get they're probably going to put out a dud, but for a 10 point or for a team that, God damn it, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It's all right, dude. I mean, 17 points, implied total. I mean, look at last week. So against New Orleans, they dominated that game. Their defense absolutely dominated. They made Jameis Winston look like he was back in Tampa Bay. So 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, only gave up 7 points. It's a pretty damn good game. Only got 12 fantasy points out of it. You got to score a touchdown. You got to have Chandler Jones type numbers when it comes to sacks. You got to do something really. You got to honey badger a first quarter interception for touchdown or something crazy to really pay off. And at that price tag, I don't love it. But what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to game script, like I said, McCaffrey, Chuba, and the defense, things like that. I'm going to forcibly hand build lineups with them in a couple of lineups, but I like them better at the captain than anything because this game could get out of hand. You're talking about a rookie quarterback. I might get a few lineups at captain. I usually don't like to do that with defenses, but let's talk about the Texans defense. 3,000. Darnold is not Tom Brady. I know he's 2-0, and I know he's up for the Ryan Tannehill Award, if you will, when it comes to resurrecting your career. He hasn't proven anything yet. I like Darnold. I think he can really do well. I think he can lead this team to the playoffs potentially. But he can throw a pick six. He can fumble the ball. We've seen it happen. I know he's not, being on the Jets just makes you bad just by default. But the Texans can all you need from the Texans is a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And if they give up less than 24 points, you might be feeling good at 3,000. Any interest in Texans?
No, I get what you're saying. I definitely think it's possible. The one thing that I think we've kind of overlooked, and I've been trying to kind of get my bearings around this the whole show. I've been doing a little bit of looking at online to see where the offensive line ranks for Carolina. They seem to be pretty solid this year, and I think the one thing that people discredit Sam Darnold a lot for is like the lack of offensive line is obvious in New York, but the lack of a running game too impacts you so severely, especially as a young developing quarterback. And I don't think that situation's the same here. In normal situations, if the Texans had their actual quarterback in, yes, but the problem is I can see this becoming a 14-3 game pretty quickly, and the Texans not being in good situations to be forcing interceptions or tosses that could result in fumbles, right? I don't expect the play calling to be as aggressive in that kind of a situation. So I think that limits the amount of takeaway opportunities the defense is going to have. But to be fair, that's all anecdotal. I mean, if you're game scripting for them to keep them in the game, then absolutely at 3K, if they get a pick six, they will be in the optimal.
Yeah, I think so. All right, fade of the night, Ellie. Real bold there.
Yeah, bro. I mean, with what we're looking at, we have no idea what's going to happen. I think it would be really foolish to kind of just say I'm going to fade anybody specifically, just because I don't have any problem just throwing pretty much anybody into a lineup. Again, Davis Mills has never played with any of these guys. And if he has, it was for a half. So most of his practice has been with third stringers, a practice squad. Him and, I can't even come up with the fake name with one of these random dudes could just absolutely go off because, they bunked together in training camp. Yeah. So who knows, man? I don't know.
All right, let's get on to our captain. Let's crown their ass.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
This is our favorite tournament captain on DraftKings. Ellie, Robbie Anderson. I love it.
Yeah, bro. I think he's priced real nicely. I think people are going to sleep on him just because he hasn't been getting the output. Yep. And I mean, he's just priced great. You can jam in pretty much whatever you want and still, you talked about it a little bit earlier. I do want to have a little bit exposure to his counterpart just because I think he'll be a little less owned. But at 7,400, Robbie is plenty of upside.
I think the wide receiver position in general in this game, you should target at captain because they're relatively well priced, and you can find some value. Yeah. When it comes to Brandon Cooks, I mean, look, both of these guys potentially, I don't know yet. We have to wait until we get closer to lock. Both of these guys could be lower owned in the captain than the Panthers defense. It's possible. I don't know if it'll happen. Brandon Cooks, he's expensive. So it could fall down to one of these things where somebody just wants to either get DJ Moore for a team that's favored, or they want to get CMC. Or Darnold. They'd rather do that, and I don't blame them. But if he's coming in around 4 or 5% ownership for Brandon Cooks, the guy's already seen 21 targets this year in 2 games. If they're losing, they're going to find a way to get him the ball. And look, the Panthers defense obviously knows that Cooks is the best player. They're going to try to lock him down. But if he's as good as he has been this year, they're not going to be able to do anything to stop him. So he's going to at least get you 7 or 8 receptions and maybe a touchdown, and if he's the highest scoring guy on the team at a lower ownership, you could stack the rest of the Panthers in the flex, and you could still do well. So, what are some other guys besides DJ Moore? Would you be interested in any other guys at captain?
I don't mind potentially a little bit of Sam Darnold. I just think his ceiling is a little bit too low to get too crazy with him. And then I do want to see where Christian McCaffrey's projections end up. If he comes in for whatever reason under 20%, I might have a little bit more than I anticipated to him. But other than that, tight end. What's his name? Dan Arnold. Yeah. I love my tight ends, dude. Yeah. I'll run a couple tight end lineups.
And Dan Arnold is like another, Darnold and Arnold. That's pretty funny. He's like another wide receiver. He's not blocking. They have him in there to catch the ball. That's the only reason why he's in there. So, if he's in there, he's going to be running routes. It's a good option.
And you know what, dude? I might actually run 1 or 2 with David Johnson at captain too. Like he could end up being wide receiver too.
Taking it back to 2016, are you?
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, if he ends up as wide receiver too, who knows?
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing that I might look at, actually, so roster construction wise, when we did the Chiefs game, the Chiefs versus Lamar and Baltimore, which by the way, amazing game. It just made sense to go Byron Pringle was the optimal captain in that game. It was crazy. Right. It made sense to go Demarcus Robinson, to go Mecole Hardman. It just made sense with the roster construction with all the great players that you wanted to fit in. In this particular matchup, I don't think you have to go that low. I think you could stay above that $6,000-$7,000 range when it comes to captain and still do well. I wouldn't go down to Mark Ingram or anything like that, in my opinion. All right, let's move over to a lineup build here. Let's see how this all works out. You want to do Robbie Anderson first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Actually, hang on. Let's look at the optimal. Let's see what it spits out here. Okay, CMC. You got Anthony Miller, Conley. You got a 4-2, Terrence Marshall. I don't hate this. This isn't a bad lineup. I don't know that I would love to do Miller and Conley. I'd rather throw in. I know that they're super cheap, but I'd rather try to fit in one of the running backs from Houston, or just try to jam in. Just get rid of DJ Moore or Darnold and try to jam in Brandon Cooks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to get off of. Well, no, you should be able to go from Moore to Brandon Cooks, right?
Well, let's do this. Let's build a cash lineup together or a single entry lineup together and see kind of where we think the field is going to be. So obviously CMC, like I said, I'm fading CMC at captain in tournaments, not anywhere else. I'm going to hedge quite a bit in single entry and head-to-heads or cash. So let's go with, I mean, don't we want to get Davis Mills in cash at 8,400? Am I crazy?
Yeah, I think you need him.
I mean, why not? Let's try to get two guys in. If we can go David Mills and Brandon Cooks. I know that's a lot of salary going that way, but I feel pretty confident that they can pay off. If anything, I might get rid of Cooks, or I might, maybe we'll switch one of these guys out for Anthony Miller or something. But let's just see how the rest of this build turns out. So you got to go Darnold, right? I don't think we're gonna be able to afford him. No, we can't. We can't afford him. What do you want to do here? You're better. I think you're better at building cash than I am.
Let's go Anthony Miller.
Okay.
Let's see. What does that give us?
We're 10.5K for two positions.
Okay.
That's
Pharaoh Brown. Oh wait, no, that puts us at 4. Yeah, that's too much. Hold on. Let's see. What else do we have at that range on the Carolina?
You could do Dan Arnold. But look, this is turning into a tournament lineup at this point. I mean, I don't want to play Dan Arnold at cash.
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to have the floor there that's going to be safe with Anthony Miller. Dan Arnold, I guess you might go a kicker in this lineup then.
Let's get rid of Brandon Cooks. Mills or Cooks? Who do you think?
Cooks.
Okay, let's go with kicker. Let's go with Joey Sly, revenge game, and let's fit in 2 more Carolina players. We might have one too many Houston players, but let's go with it. So we've got 16.
Can we put in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, we should put in Sam Darnold here.
Yeah.
At 5,700.
And then I think you can comfortably play Dan Arnold.
Yeah.
Or David Johnson.
Then you're looking at a 4-2 Houston. But it is what it is. I mean, Houston is where the value's at. It's gonna be hard. This is how it's gonna be with McCaffrey at captain. It's not fun to build.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not. I don't like it. So we're gonna have to play with this a little bit more as we get closer to lock. The projections will be more dialed in. I think we'll be able to get a better optimal. But already seeing Christian McCaffrey at captain, it's a mouthful. I just don't like it. I already don't like it. So let's go with Robbie Anderson. Let's see if this is a little bit easier to build with. So Robbie Anderson at captain, you're going to want to. Now we could go the other way. We can do Robbie Anderson at captain, and that's our exposure to the pass game. Darnold throws 2 long bombs to Robbie Anderson, and maybe Darnold doesn't make it in the optimal. If we're building a tournament lineup, we could go. From here you can go CMC and Chuba or something like that. How do you want to handle this with your favorite captain option here?
I want to do CMC Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I want to start, and then let's see, what does that put us at?
13.7.
What happens when we throw in Danny Dimes or Davis
Maddock or whatever his name is? Yeah. That's 2,600 a position. So you got to go Anthony Miller.
And Chris Conley, right? No, I think that's what
Anthony Miller. Oh yeah, that leaves us 4,300. Zane Gonzalez or Terrence Marshall?
Terrace Marshall.
Sarah Marshall Jr. That leaves us $300. I don't hate this. This is nice. You got McCaffrey, Anderson, and you got Marshall. Hopefully he gets a breakout game. Run it back with Davis Mills and Anthony Miller. It's tough, dude. It's we're seeing it. It's tough to build because I want Brandon Cooks and I want Davis Mills in my opinion, but it's impossible unless we get rid of Darnold.
So hold on, I'm trying to look at something right here. So try this. We're gonna come off of. I want to build one with Sam Darnold at captain real quick.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay. So Sam Darnold, Christian McCaffrey, and then Davy Dimes.
Davy Dimes. There you go. CMC, Davy Dimes.
All right, and then shockingly, we're gonna go Anthony Miller.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Okay.
1K.
And then let's throw in Terrace Marshall.
Sarah Marshall. Okay.
All right, now what does that leave you with?
6,400.
Yep. So
Defense?
I think you throw on the Panthers defense.
Yeah. Shit, why not? That's the first lineup I've liked so far. You know?
Yeah, I don't. So look, I mean, the optimal that we built with Christian McCaffrey, like the actual optimal was 98 projected points. This one's 93, right? And this is with median. That's assuming that the Panthers defense does this.
Scores 8
right?
points. You're looking for
we're
a
not
20
putting him in
game.
this. Yeah, we're not putting him in this lineup expecting 8.5.
Yeah.
And I mean, even this, if we're sticking with these projections for Terrace and Anthony Miller, I'm fine with that because they're kind of just. Well, Anthony Miller is a correlated punt play with Dave, Danny Daves, Dimes.
Davy Dimes, yeah.
The Davy Dime factory. And then Terrace Marshall is just, a hopeful dump off from Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So, I don't hate this lineup, and I think it'll be unique enough to actually run.
So let's go over to Brandon Cooks and see what we can do. This kind of scares me now, knowing that he's at 15K at captain. So if I want to fit in Davy Dimes here. I know I'm a little higher on Davy Dimes than probably the field would be, but
he's 8,400. He's going to play 100% of the game and touch the ball 100% of the time. I don't know what you want.
So let's try to fit in. Let's do a 3-3 here, or we can try a 4-2, Houston. But let's try to fit in one of the running backs. So who would you prefer in a
David Johnson?
David Johnson. Okay.
Yep.
Let's go. David Johnson.
I don't like being that confident in David Johnson, but I just have a feeling about him on Thursday. It doesn't make sense to not use him, dude.
Yeah, and look, if you wanted to do this, you could do this too. It's a $400 difference. It's not going to break the bank here. So David Johnson or Philip Lindsay, whatever you want, and we might be able to see if this roster construction actually calls for either. So let's go to the other side. Let's obviously put CMC in. Let's do Chuba Hubbard, man.
Yeah, I'm down.
That leaves us 4.6K. Zylstra or Terrence Marshall. He seems to fit in well.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. You get one touchdown from Marshall, and then the bulk of everything else goes to the run game in a blowout. The fact that he's projected for 1.8, I get it. I'm expecting to see him a little bit higher this week. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had 8 carries, dude. He gets 1 catch, and all of a sudden he has 2.2 points. I don't know.
I don't know if that's going to do it for us. But... All right, let's try one more here. Let's try one more thing here. Oh, wait, I have Brandon Cooks. Can we get DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson in this lineup? So Robbie Anderson is 2.2K. We can't even afford DJ Moore at this point. So Robbie Anderson here, we do like a reverse 2-4. What does that leave us? 2,300?
Anthony Miller. Or Chris Conley.
Or Jordan Akins, Ian Thomas, Conley, Miller, any of these guys.
You know what? Let's throw in Akins. We haven't gotten much of the tight ends, and as much as we've been fading them, even going from a guy like Terrace Marshall down to Farrell Brown, that 1,400, that could be the difference in one of those lineups going from Robbie Anderson maybe to DJ Moore. So it is something worth noting.
This is not that Chiefs game on Sunday night. That was so much fun to build because there's so many options to go with. It was a lot of fun, and I was up there the whole night, hoping to win. Didn't work out, but this is not like that at all. There's just not a lot of value that I'd be comfortable putting at the captain. So where else can we go? Can we go Davy Dimes at captain and see what happens?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just say he gets a random rushing touchdown and throws for 2 touchdowns and 200 yards. At that price tag, it's not terrible. All right, we got to run it back with CMC. So if Davy Dimes is at captain, we're going to want to fit probably 2 guys in the flex. So let's go.
He has a 4.58 40.
Does he? Well, hey, that's not bad actually. Shit.
Not for a quarterback, man.
Yeah, it's not bad. Let's go Anthony Miller and Brandon Cooks. That leaves us with 6,500 a pop. Now we got to fit 2 more Carolina guys in potentially at this point.
Robbie Anderson.
Okay. Yeah.
And probably Dan Arnold. I think you'll have
7.8K, 5.2K. Dan Arnold. Hey, I don't mind that at all. That's actually pretty nice. I like it.
Yeah.
That's not terrible. That's okay. This is this could be a good single entry option. The only question mark, in my opinion, is Dan Arnold at 4.8K because Anthony Miller gets you 4 or 5 receptions. You might be okay, but you're solid across the board here. This is one of my favorite lineups, even though you have a real question mark at captain. All right, who else should we build with? Should we go low end? Should we try to fit DJ Moore at captain here?
No, let's throw in Dan Arnold. I think everyone knows where we're at with DJ Moore. They can figure it out. Yeah. There's only so many lineups.
The sad thing is that we haven't been able to fit him in any lineups yet. That's the thing that worries me. You have to force him in realistically, unless he's higher on your list than he is for me at least. So, who do you want again? Dan Arnold?
Yeah. And then let's throw in DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and see where we're at.
That's a ton, dude. That's a ton.
Okay,
I think we should go two good players and one punt here. 4-2, okay. So it's a 3,800 a pop. Let's see. Who do you want to go with? You want to go with kicker or something here?
No, put in the Carolina defense. Let's see where we end up here.
Where the hell are they? Oh, they're way up there, man. Dude, that's crazy.
I think we have to run Anthony Miller.
Anthony Miller. This is a FU lineup here, man. This is a blowout. This is a 35 to 17 lineup here.
Yeah, but hey, man, you got everybody. This is something to keep in mind, right? Like, if you pressed optimize, this is probably what you would have gotten with the Dan Arnold captain. Yeah. So, I don't know, man.
All right, let me build one more lineup here. So let's go Brandon Cooks at captain. Let's try this. Let's go CMC, Chuba, and Carolina defense. And let's see, that leaves us 6,100. So we don't have any of the quarterbacks at this point. We can fit in one quarterback. Let's see if we can fit in Darnold. Look who it is.
It's our boy.
All right, that's my favorite.
He's going to end up being like 70% loan, dude.
I know. Well, I'm going to have him in fucking 90% of my lineups here, man. Jeez.
Yeah, bro.
That's my favorite lineup here. It's a weird lineup, but it's like a 2-4, Cooks and Miller. Hey, I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. You got anything else you want to do before we get the hell out of here?
No, man. I think we're just gonna have to figure it out, right? Join Discord. We'll figure it out together, and we'll be talking live up until the game starts. We got to figure that there's gonna be inactives that we weren't planning on. So yeah, who knows, man? Maybe somebody will be inactive that'll shake things up a little bit. I hope so, because that was not very fun. There's a few options, but that was not very fun. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hit a like. Subscribe. We'll be back for Sunday night. I'll be in Jacksonville for the Cardinals game. I'll be in a hotel somewhere in Jacksonville. See you then. Take it easy.